Today on Commander Replay, it's a pirate's life for me. Can Kari Zev go Jack Sparrow on Aethrio's God of Passage, Rashmi Eternity's Crafter, and PURPHOROS God of the Forge? Find out who wins in this blood-red battle on the high seas. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Commander Replay. Today, we are here to play some Kari Zev, Pirate. I finally pared down my deck list to 100 cards, and let's take a quick look at it. So, right off the bat, you'll notice 38 lands, a very lowly 7 creatures, and 54 other cards. I'm a little worried about the creature count being so low. This basically means that Kari Zev is gonna be the main event. So you'll see some standard stuff in the 1 slot. You'll see some standard red cards in the 1 slot. Shattering Spree, Vandal Blast, deal with artifacts. Sol Ring, Divining Top, Expedition Map. In the 2 slot, you'll see a handful of equipments. We have Mask of Memory, Swiftfoot Boots, Sword of the Animist, and Umezawa's Jitte. Followed up by more equipments in our 3 slot. We have Luxodon Warhammer, Quita Spike, and I'm running 4 of the swords. I'm not running Light and Shadow because I've always found Light and Shadow to be a little bit lackluster, especially with our extremely low creature count of 7. We're just not going to get that much value out of it. And it's absolutely terrible early in the game. In the 4 slot, we have some interesting things. We have Blood Mist to give one of our attacking creatures double strike. We have Outpost Siege to draw some extra cards. Aftershock for removal. Into the Core is double artifact removal, exile 2 artifacts. Sulphurous Blast to wipe away small creatures. We will have to be careful not to blow up our Kari Zev with this. Fodder Cannon, a card I'm excited to try out. Sacrifice a creature, pay 4, do 4 damage to a creature. This is an interesting card because this can kill all of the Commander 2016 commanders if they are not buffed in any way. This should be pretty good removal if we get this guy online. Next you'll see Helm of Possession. We can steal creatures with the Ragavan token. Skull Catapult, another way to do damage with the Ragavan token. A Sword of Kaldra. I'm not running the other pieces of Kaldra, but the sword does give +5/+5, and with First Strike and Exile, that means you can literally take out any creature in the game. We've got Blood Rites as another way to sack creatures and do damage. Stormbreath Dragon just as another creature in the deck, and I kind of like its monstrous ability. Haven't actually used it in a game of Commander yet, but I feel like if we get to that point, it should be pretty powerful. Kaldatha Phoenix, this is a card I've been looking to find a home for a very long time. There are a lot of artifacts in this deck, so I think we can reasonably have Metalcraft, and this can be a nice recursive body. One of the things I was worried about is that the creature count is so low in this deck. If Kari Zev gets blown up a handful of times, we might not have anything to equip with all the equipments that we're playing, so this Kaldatha Phoenix seems like a good recursive creature. It's also got flying and it's got haste, all very good abilities to equip up a creature with. We have Scytheclaw, and if an opponent gets damage with it, they lose half their life. And then we have some big creatures. Chandra Flamecaller, just an all-around good card. Warstorm Surge, try to get some value out of the token. We'll have to see if this is overpriced for the Ragavan token. If we're playing more creatures, it's probably fine, but with our low creature count, it may not be the best call. Vicious Shadows, we will be sacking a lot of the creature tokens, so this should give us some good damage. This may be one of the few ways that we can really close out a game efficiently with this deck. Balefire Dragon, All is Dust. Insurrection, another way we can close out the game. Ugin as mass removal. Blasphemous Act, Magma Quake, and Earthquake, all for creature removal. Other things of note, I am running the Hellkite Charger, Aggravated Assault, sort of Feast and Famine combo. I don't usually run combos like this, but I do feel like Kari Zev is going to have a really tough time closing out games, so I think this deck list really needs some late game punch to actually be able to close out the game. Unfortunately, none of the auras made this deck list. I did have a couple in there to start, but as I was trimming down to 100 cards, they had to get cut. We'll see how the deck plays. It is probably worth having 1 or 2 in there, particularly either the Fire Breathing or the plus power equal to the number of mountains auras, just because that can also give us a way to close out a game. So that's our deck list. You guys can pause and take a look at it if you want. I will get it posted on Tapped Out eventually. So let's get into the matchmaking. First game, mate. Alright, so here we are, our very first game with Kari Zev, and this is a multiplayer game. Let's take a quick look at our opening hand. We have 3 lands, we have 2 mountains, a Myriad Landscape. We have a Vandal Blast, blow up artifacts, Sword of Kaldra, this will be nice, All is Dust, Mass Removal, and Solemn Simulacrum. So this is a pretty keepable hand. We will go ahead and keep this. Let's take a look at what our opponents are playing. We're facing Aethrio's God of Passage. We have Rashmi Eternity's Crafter, And we have PURPHOROS, God of the Forge. Ooh, PURPHOROS. I faced PURPHOROS a bunch of times, and PURPHOROS can kill the entire board very quickly. he deals out a ton of damage. And the deck always performs pretty consistently, at least from what I've seen. Now, this can go one of two ways. The damage that PURPHOROS is going to dish out may actually be really beneficial to us because that'll make everyone else's life total low also, which means that Kari Zev will have to do less overall damage to kill a player. And as I said, we are running a lowly 7 creatures in this deck, so Kari Zev is the opening act and the main attraction. There will not be many other targets that we can equip up and swing in with. So our turn 2, we'll just drop down Kari Zev. Pirate. God, I love having 2-mana commanders. Pass the turn, PURPHOROS will create an interesting interaction with Athreos, because if everyone's life total's getting low, no one's going to want to pay the life for Athreos. Athreos' opponent plays a Viscera Seer. Seems like a pretty good combo engine with Athreos. When the time is right, we'll definitely try to blow that up with a Sulphurous Blast. In this matchup, Lifelink would be really strong. We only have one Lifelinking card, which is Luxodon Warhammer, but that card will be at a premium in this match. I'm unfortunately not running Gamble in this deck list. I've had terrible results with Gamble on Magic Online. I feel like 75% of the time, you discard the card that you tutored for, which is essentially just like duressing yourself one card. It feels terrible. Nothing we can really do this turn other than attack and sacrifice the Myriad Landscape. So we'll sacrifice the Myriad Landscape, go find 2 mountains. Who to attack? PURPHOROS seems like the good target. So our first attack with Kari Zev. She is a human pirate, and now she has her monkey friend, both attacking PURPHOROS, God of the Forge. Oh, there's no picture on Ragavan. Where is he? Hopefully he shows up later in the game. Maybe he just needs to download or something like that. I'm not sure. Or it's a bug. I'll have to write a bug into Magic Online. We'll see. So no blocks from our opponent. And our opponent drops to 37. Ragavan gets exiled. And you guys see the Magic Online upgrade. They track commander damage now, which is pretty awesome. Seems like one of those really easy upgrades that they should have probably made a long time ago. But I'm glad that it's here now. Eily Eternal Pilgrim for the Athreos opponent. So the Athreos opponent's got a lot of sacrifice effects going on already. We will probably have to play our Sulphurous Blast pretty soon, maybe not next turn, but with probably in the next 2 or 3 turns, because I really don't want Athreos to get their sacrifice engine going. So Reclamation Sage for the Rashmi opponent, and that's going after the Hammer of PURPHOROS. Good choice. I've talked about it a lot. When creatures that don't have haste get haste, you can get into some really bad situations. Haste is a very strong and very underrated mechanic in Commander, or ability rather. So PURPHOROS, God of the Forge coming into play. The mass life loss is probably about to start next turn. So we draw a Temple Bell. As much as I like the Temple Bell, I think I'm going to go with Solemn Simulacrum this turn. That will ensure that we get a land even though we actually miss our land per turn play. We are running 38 lands in the deck. There is a reasonable chance that Temple Bell gets us another land, but I'm not necessarily betting on it. What to do next? Yeah, I'm going to split the damage up between Rashmi and PURPHOROS. Mostly just because I want to try out this menace mechanic. So Kari Zev at the Rashmi opponent, and Ragavan at the PURPHOROS opponent. So we exile the monkey, and Rashmi's at 38-1 commander, PURPHOROS is at 35-1 commander. So now we're going to lay down the Solemn Simulacrum, and search for a mountain, and pass the turn. Vampire Hexmage for the Athreos opponent. I love this card. I play Vampire Hexmage in all of my black decks. It's both a solid early game creature, and it's able to kill planeswalkers with the remove all counters ability, which I really like. I keep it in all of my black decks because, especially when I play Shieldred, because in Shieldred you can recur it, so you can theoretically kill any number of planeswalkers, not all at once, but turn after turn, you can get rid of them one at a time, which I really like. So Eily Eternal Pilgrim is swinging in at Rashmi, and Rashmi's going to block with the Reclamation Sage. Trinket Mage for our Rashmi opponent, probably going for a Sol Ring. Sol Ring indeed. We could use a Sol Ring right here. Sol Ring would be nice. And the Sol Ring coming into play. Dragon Fodder for the PURPHOROS opponent. And this is how it starts. We're all going to get pinged for a bunch of damage. So 4 damage to each player other than PURPHOROS. Ooh, we draw an Inferno Titan. We can't cast it yet because we are short a land. The choice this turn is either Temple Bell, draw and try to find a land, or just go Gauntlet of Power, and that'll double our mana for next turn. I'm going to send in Kari Zev and Ragavan at the PURPHOROS opponent, just because I know how much damage that they can dish out over the next couple turns, and I really don't want him being at a high life total. Killing him first is probably the correct call. Opponent figures out how Menace works. Opponent still figuring out how Menace works. Opponent trying a third time to block with a single creature. Nope, that's still not going to do it. Opponent decides to go with no blocks. Menace. So I listened to Mark Rosewater talk about Menace and how they look at it. Exile the monkey. They consider Menace to be the trample for black or red. It's a partial evasion. It's not evasion like flying. It's not evasion like shadow. So we play the Gauntlet of Power, we choose red, and pass the turn. Yeah, we probably could have played the Gauntlet first and got in for a little more damage, but hopefully the 2 damage that we missed doesn't matter. But yeah, so Mark Rosewater talked about how when they want to grant a partial evasion to typically red or black creatures, they found out that cards with Intimidate from a few years back were way too strong because essentially you can't block if you're playing the wrong colors, and they didn't like the way that that felt. There have been a number of cards over the years that actually had the Menace mechanic before it was named the Menace mechanic, so they started applying that, and they liked the way that that felt. But yeah, so he said that Intimidate was too strong, things like Shadow are too strong. They don't like punishing people just for choosing the wrong color, or in the case of Shadow, choosing not to play Shadow. Rotlung Reanimator for the Athreos opponent. Whenever it or another cleric dies, create a 2/2 black zombie. So, ew. Yeah, Athreos has some stuff that they can do with their sacrifice effects. So he's going to start sacrificing, going to scry with the Viscera Seer. Diabolic Intent. As an additional cost to cast Diabolic Intent, sacrifice a creature, then search your library for a card and put that card into your hand. So it's a demonic tutor with a sacrifice a creature as the additional cost. But yeah, I have heard some other Magic players talk about how the Menace mechanic, the mechanic itself is fine, but the application of the mechanic is very confusing. They just seem to throw it on things at random. There's been a couple times where I forget that Kozilek the Grace Distortion has Menace, which makes it pretty difficult to block. Usually you have one token that you're willing to throw in front of it. You don't always have a second token that you can just throw. You do find yourself having to block with one of the creatures you actually wanted to keep, just to keep yourself from taking that huge hit. But the application of Menace it's been a little bit inconsistent. Like like flying always feels like it matches the creatures that it goes on. Menace, it's sort of hard to pair that ability to what the flavor of the card does. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. Does the application of Menace seem weird to you? Ugh. So, opponent plays a Blatant Thievery, one of the more broken commander cards that I surprisingly don't see as much as I think that you would. For each opponent, gain control of target permanent that player controls. Commandeer. We're going to commandeer that ship. So we're going to lose our Solemn Simulacrum. There are worse things to lose, but I really did want the card draw off Solemn Simulacrum. On the other hand, he does steal the PURPHOROS, which is probably better because that means we won't all die to PURPHOROS at light speed. There's a pretty good chance that the mono red deck does not actually have a way to get their PURPHOROS back. Mana Geyser for the PURPHOROS opponent. I should take a look at running that card. That seems like a pretty good ramp card. So Siege Gang Commander for the PURPHOROS opponent. This is where the Blatant Thievery stealing the PURPHOROS is doing a very good thing for all of us. So I guess we're taking one for the team on that because we would have all just got hit for 8 if PURPHOROS was still under its owner's control. Opponent's still got 11 mana floating. Let's see if they have anything else they want to do with it. They're down to 3 cards in hand. So opponent's going to use the Siege Gang Commander. Didn't see what he targeted. Okay, so he sacrificed 2 tokens and just threw them at the Rashmi opponent. It looks like he's on the plan of just trying to kill the Rashmi opponent. That's fine. I fully support opponents infighting amongst themselves. There's a chance that our turn, I think that we want to play the Sulphurous Blast, just to kind of slow down Athreos. Yeah, especially now. Oh, yeah. Now we're definitely going to want to play that Sulphurous Blast. PURPHOROS opponent is playing Empty the Warrens, and it's going to storm 2 additional times. So a whole bunch more tokens. Now has 6 Goblin tokens and the Siege Gang Commander. This is going to be a pretty good Sulphurous Blast. Fortunately, we have our Gauntlet of Power still in play, so the Sulphurous Blast won't blow up Kari Zev. Ooh, and an Ancient Tomb. Little extra mana. Although I suppose a Mountain would give us 2 with the Gauntlet of Power still in play without the 2 damage that we'd lose from the Ancient Tomb. So we'll drop down our Ancient Tomb. We are going to main phase this Sulphurous Blast. Opponent decides to sack in response. Gonna scry. Opponent scries again. So first card went to the bottom, second card goes to the bottom, opponent scries again, and third scry stays on top. I like that the Athreos opponent didn't have time to actually get their Athreos in play. Otherwise, someone would either have to pay a lot of life or they would be getting all of those creatures back. So that works out pretty good for us. Solemn Simulacrum dies. Rashmi's going to get to draw a card. We still got Kari Zev in play. We can either go for the Temple Bell, or I think I'm just going to lay down the Cauldra, eat the life to do it. So it's going to be a total of 8. So play Cauldra, eat the life off of Ancient Tomb, equip up Cauldra. I'm going to swing in at the PURPHOROS opponent. Actually, the PURPHOROS opponent should be just about out of gas. I think Athreos is probably the better call here. So we'll send Ragavan at the Athreos opponent also. So Athreos goes down to 23 and takes 7 commander. Not bad. I was a little iffy about the inclusion of Sword of Kaldra, but so far it seems pretty good. I'm not running the other pieces, and maybe it's worth throwing in here. I mean, it's in red with almost no tutor. It's going to be really difficult to get all 3 pieces out, but could be fun if it ever happens. We'll see. Athreos sacking and Evolving Wilds. Gets a swamp. Plays a face-down morph card. My best guess is always, whenever I see a morph card in a black deck, I always assume it's Bane of the Living. It's usually the best choice in Commander. Would make a lot of sense in the Athreos deck also. So Rashmi coming into play. So we're on turn 6. Both Athreos and Rashmi have pretty low life totals. PURPHOROS is at 27, so he's starting to dwindle down a little bit, but he's still got more than half his life. Simic Growth Chamber for the Rashmi opponent, bounces the land. As a more casual option, I kind of want to try out Elbrus the Binding Blade. I've never actually played with that card. It's really expensive to actually cast, but it seems like this could be a decent fit for the deck just because with the Menace ability, you have a reasonable chance of actually dealing combat damage to someone and getting it to flip around. So Spawning Pit for the PURPHOROS opponent. So back to our turn. We draw a Stormbreath Dragon. It's a reasonable draw. The question is going to be who to go after this turn. I think this turn PURPHOROS might be the correct answer. So if that is Bane of the Living, then what? Is it worth playing the Stormbreath Dragon here? I am unsure. Well, let's play it. We've got more cards in hand than everyone else at the table, so let's run it out there. We could paint ourselves to make it monstrous. That would get 3 damage, 4 damage. Would make it a 7/7. I think I'll play the Temple Bell instead. Actually, we could pump everyone up with this Temple Bell first and then make the Stormbreath Dragon monstrous. So let's go to combat. We're going to send everything at PURPHOROS. So we get the monkey token, also going at PURPHOROS. Exile the token. So PURPHOROS drops to 12 life and is at 9 commander. And this puts them in an interesting position because if the Rashmi opponent plays several creatures, there's a good chance that PURPHOROS could die to his own PURPHOROS. That's always a funny but humiliating way to go, dying to your own commander. Devout Captain for the Athreos opponent. Tap 2 untapped humans you control, exile target artifact or enchantment. We're definitely going to have to get rid of that because he'll definitely come after our Kaldra, and we really don't want that. We can easily Earthquake or play Inferno Titan next turn. Grim Haruspex. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. 3/2. So we have this Earthquake in hand. If we can get everyone's life total within Earthquake range, ooh, that's a Consecrated Sphinx. And the Rashmi Cascade trigger. Ooh. Yeah, the Consecrated Sphinx is going to make the Stormbreath Dragon extremely deadly. So another PURPHOROS trigger. Oh yeah, so Rashmi up to 6 cards. He can get 2 more off of our draw and then 2 more, and he can get a whole bunch more if I fire off the Temple Bell. Skittering Invasion for the PURPHOROS opponent. That does give them a whole bunch of blockers. There's a chance we can win this next turn if everything goes well. Rashmi does have open blue mana, and that's not awesome. Don't know if they're running any counters. Counters sort of go against the grain of the Cascade ability. So Consecrated Sphinx draws 2 more cards. Rashmi goes up to 8 cards. I'm going to fire off this Temple Bell, see if we catch a land. Also, that'll... So, more cards for... I'm going to auto this trigger. More cards for the Consecrated Sphinx. We catch a Blood Mist, which is okay, but there might be better... Blood Mist could be very playable. We'll see what happens here. Now, if Rashmi dies, I'm not exactly sure what happens to the PURPHOROS. I don't know if it just leaves the game entirely or if it goes back to the command zone or where that's going to go. So that does cause me a little bit of concern. So it'll take 7 to make this guy monstrous. We're going to pay the Ancient Tomb. So let's fire off the Stormbreath Dragon. Fire off the monstrous ability. So monstrous 3. It's going to tag Rashmi for a whole bunch of damage. Assuming he doesn't get bounced. Alright, so we get the damage trigger. The next thing I think we want to do is... killing Rashmi seems like a very good idea here. Okay, I've got it. We're going to Earthquake for 4. And then just go to combat. So Athreos drawing cards. So new life totals, Athreos down to 11, Rashmi down to 6, and PURPHOROS down to 4. Yeah, we can kill some players here. Let's do it. Rashmi has 11 cards in hand, so a little worried about how things can go here. I'm going to decide to attack like this. I'm going to put the monkey... Oh boy, here we go. Rashmi is tapping mana. Okay, it's only a dig through time. Leaves him with only 1 mana available. Something like an unsummon or a vapor snag could be troubling, but there aren't too many other options. So I'm going to put this into play against the Rashmi opponent just because I really want to make sure that Rashmi goes down here with all the cards that they just drew. They're at 12 cards now, so yeah, we really got to take them out. I'm sure they have something nasty in 12 cards and the ability to draw more. So Rashmi goes down. Yeah! No blocks and no plays. Rashmi down, and that leaves Aetherios at 3 and PURPHOROS at 4. PURPHOROS is back under its owner's control. We do have to be careful, like if he has a really big spell that if he can make 11 creatures, that would kill us. So we do need to be careful of that. If PURPHOROS makes 2 creatures, it would kill the Aetherios opponent, so we probably won't even have to worry about them all that much. Aetherios does play an Enlightened Tutor. Let's see what they go for. Goes for a Tidehollow Sculler. So, boys and girls, we can do this. We are in a very good position this game. Kari Zev has been really good, especially on the back of Kaldra, Sword of Kaldra. So we've got our opponents down to 3 and 4. Hopefully things don't go terribly wrong in this next turn cycle until we get back to our turn. But I'm not joking. This is my very first game with Kari Zev, and the Aetherios opponent scoops it up. Yeah! Figuring there's not much they can do at 3 life. So it's just us. It's Kari Zev versus PURPHOROS, mono red on mono red.
We're going red to red. I mean head to head.
Fire Diamond's not that scary. Opponent's got 2 cards left. Let's see what they are. Goblin Marshal enters the battlefield or dies, create 2 red goblin creatures. So he's got some goblin creatures. Oh boy. Oh, it's gonna get close. It's gonna get close with the spawning pit out. We're down to 13. Opponent's got 4 mana left with our Gauntlet of Power in play. Down to 11. Opponent plays a Faithless Looting. Goes to 0 cards in hand. Not exactly sure what they were trying to accomplish there. Opponent's sacking more creatures. Down to 9. I think we're just barely going to survive with enough life. Down to 5, down to 3. Opponent's out of mana. This should do it. All right, back to our turn. We'll go to combat and just swing with both. If we need to do anything tricky afterwards, we can do it with the Inferno Titan and the Warstorm Surge. So attack with both. Put the monkey into play attacking. 1 block. This is going to be lethal. Opponent says GG. I told him good game, super close. That's going to be it. There it is, boys and girls. Kari Zev squeaking out the win in the very first game. Looks like the opponent's going to make us wait a little while. The opponent seems a little salty and is not letting the game end and letting the combat damage go through. One of the other opponents said that our deck seems really sweet, but it looks like we're going into the waiting process because opponent's being salty. There it is. Our first game out of the box with Kari Zev, and we get the win. Oh, it feels so good. So I was poking around some forums earlier, and I saw a bunch of people trashing Kari Zev about how she's the least powerful of all the legendary creatures that were released in Aether Revolt. But I don't know, she's pretty strong. Just to be able to get a creature out that's got evasion on turn 2 that you can pump up and start swinging with, that keeps a constant pressure on the opponents. Now, we also lucked out that one of our opponents was PURPHOROS, which makes everyone's life total really low anyway. The life loss from PURPHOROS really opened the door for us to be able to just finish up with Kari Zev very nicely. So one other thing about this match, having played against PURPHOROS a bunch of times, I realized that it's very similar to a modern deck, or at least a lot of the modern decks, where it basically tries not to interact. The last thing that a PURPHOROS deck wants to do is interact with gameplay. It really just wants to burn everyone out all at once. One of the things that they got punished for with that style of deck is that if your commander gets stolen, you really don't have the tools to get it back. Not that Mono Red has a lot of tools at its disposal, but PURPHOROS asks that you build your deck in a very specific way, and that specific way is going to be really light on interactive spells. The other thing is, there was almost no creature removal this match. All the creature removal that happened was played by us. And that ties back to the other decks just not being that interactive for this particular match. I'm sure in the Aetherios list there is some removal, being that the deck is black and white, and those are the 2 best removal colors. The Rashmi list probably has a lot of blue cards that can steal things, so it can interact on that kind of level, but we really didn't see all that much interaction in this particular game. Basically, it came down to the Blatant Thievery, the Sulphurous Blast that we played, and the Earthquake that we played. So, that was a super awesome game. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the Kari Zev deck list. And of course, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.